Send a couple more.
So when leaf blowers are in our village, I hope that noise doesn't come through too much. So as I mentioned, this program today, by the way, is our part four of our environmental series, which is Rotary International's 7th area of focus. So Rachel Besic is the executive director of Nooksack Salmon Enhancement. She started volunteering there in 1996. She became the organization's executive director in 2008. Rachel has a bachelor's degree in geology and a master's in public administration and nonprofit leadership. During her time as executive director at NC's work has grown. Notably, achievements have included the establishment of an endowment and legacy giving program, a successful capital campaign to establish a permanent facility, and an increase in capacity to expand work with the salmon recovery partners and community members. Throughout its time, Nooksack has worked consistently to focus efforts to engage our community in salmon recovery through restoration, education, and stewardship. Following Rachel's presentation, Dory will reflect on some of her involvement with NC. So Rachel, welcome to the Rotary Club of Bellingham, and you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you all for your time. And thank you for all of the good work that you do in our community. I know enough of you and enough about your work to know that you make this world a better place. Dory, I'd love to invite you to introduce yourself and help kick us off while I queue up our presentation.
All right, it's great to see everybody again. I know I've been before you in previous times as owner of Bellwood, but it's especially nice to see you all today. With this quarantine, it's so nice to see old faces. Oh, I shouldn't say old faces, faces that I've seen before. So, I just wanted to bring in a little bit how I got involved with NC. Many of you know that my first love was our farm. And we were lucky enough to have a stream running through our farm, the 10 Mile. And with that gave me opportunity to talk to many, many landowners and get involved with NC. And I just want to share the 3 things that I learned and how NC's kind of tied in. Talking with landowners, whether they were farmers or just people who bought 5, 10, 20 acres because they had a reason and they had a wish and a dream. I learned from them that the most important thing we can do when we look at restoration is to listen to them. They want to share why they bought their property. They want to share the needs they have for the use of their property. And the most important gift we can give them is the gift of listening. They also want to learn about the science of restoration. They want to know why we're asking them to do what we ask of them. They want to know the science behind what is going on in their stream, whether we're talking about water temperature or turbidity or whatever it is. They just want to know why. And the last thing they do is they want to get solutions that meet their needs, but also meet the needs of the watershed. As I worked with landowners, I brought in NC continually to work with me with the landowners. And I learned up front that NC is an organization that is heartfelt, that has compassion, and that is our great listener. I learned that NC, after 30 years of experience in the field, they have science behind them. They not only get work done on the field, they also monitor what they do so that we can learn and do things better. And then most of all, I learned that NC provides solutions that work for landowners and that work for the watershed. So I am so enthused with NC. I am excited to be a board member since 2011. And on a personal front, one more thing that NC does for me is that it gives me an opportunity to do things on the ground to support the beliefs that I have. So many times I know I can get overwhelmed with climate change and overwhelmed with the challenges for the environment. And NC gives me that door into the real world of doing something that makes sense. So I am proud to be here. I'll be around to answer any questions, and I'm going to turn it over so that you can learn more about NC.
So much, Tori, and thanks for all of your volunteer work leading this organization and on our board. So I'm hoping everyone can see my screen and hear me okay. And I am excited to take just a few minutes and give you an overview of NC and the work that we do in our community. Starting out with our mission is to educate, inspire, and engage our community to keep salmon here, keep wild salmon here, I should say, for future generations. And there we go. NC is one of 14 different regional fishery enhancement groups in the state of Washington. And it's important that you understand that the state legislature created the Regional Fishery Enhancement Group program in 1990 as a way to engage communities, that means you, in the process of salmon recovery throughout the state. And as a way to facilitate that community engagement, they created a support mechanism for grassroots nonprofit organizations to work with community members. And I think that was a recognition that the top-down kind of agency-led approach wasn't enough by itself, I should say. So NC's focus is to restore habitat, educate community members, and create opportunities for stewardship within our community. I want to stress that we're an apolitical organization. Our goal is to meet any community member where they're at and find ways to build bridges between the habitat needs that salmon and other wildlife have and your needs as community members. I believe, and I think we believe, that there are solutions for all of us. We work with other salmon recoveries like the tribes, the state, the conservation district, and Rich Bowers is here. I'll point out the Whatcom Land Trust too is one of our fantastic local partners. Our strategic vision is led by a volunteer board, including Dory and a number of others. We're directed by a small but strengthy, I think, professional staff. And implementation is led by very dedicated group of crew members, AmeriCorps members, and thousands of community volunteers, at least on a normal year. I'll talk more about that a little bit later. My hope in my talk today is to give you an overview of NC. A lot of that is from, shall we say, the before time. And I'll definitely mention that we have been taking COVID precautions throughout the last year and continue to do so, but I'll toggle back and forth a little bit between in general and specific examples. Within the framework of our structure, we strive to recover salmon by engaging our community, and the restoration, the education, and the stewardship are really those three legs. So I'll share examples of each of those. Restoration is one of the first legs, if you will, of our organization. And one of the key strategies in our strategic plan is to ensure that there are sustainable salmon populations. And to do that, one of the best things we can do is restore salmon habitat. So an example here, as pictured, is a fish passage barrier removal project that we did on one of many local watersheds, Silver Creek, kind of near the Bellingham Airport. And this is an example where there's the small culvert, the landfill on top of it, or the fill on top of it under the driveway was collapsing, and the culvert was becoming squished, the integrity was jeopardized, and we were able to work with the landowner to secure grant funding to pay to remove the culvert and the fill in the driveway and replace that with a bridge, which is engineered, it's rated for fire trucks and school buses, and this is, I think, a classic example of a win-win in that the creek and the habitat is better for salmon by a long shot. It's also a better fit for the landowner. And over with all of our restoration projects, we strive to find that balance and bring a solution that benefits salmon, wildlife, as well as landowners. This particular project opened up 1.3 miles of good quality salmon habitat upstream of this section, which had formerly been a fish passage barrier. So another example of what that might look like is off of High Creek, which is a tributary to Kendall Creek and the North Fork of the Nooksack River in the Kendall area. This particular project opened 3.1 miles of habitat that was previously inaccessible. Each year, NC contributes between 5 and 10 projects like these, opening up important habitat upstream of those barriers. And together, year by year by year, those are really, really adding up. Another example of type of restoration work that NC does is riparian restoration. And I'll show you 3 pictures kind of back to back that highlight, I think, the process of that work. This is a picture of Kendall Creek, and there is a stream here, but it's completely covered and choked, if you will, with reed canary grass, which is a non-native and invasive grass. And it's hard to see the stream. It's hard for fish to migrate through this stream. So the first thing we do is we come in and we mechanically remove the reed canary grass, bring in excavators and pull the banks back, remove as much of the reed canary grass and the root mass, which is quite dense and energetic as possible. And then we start planting native trees and shrubs. The whole goal is to create a new forest, because the only thing that we can do to effectively get rid of reed canary grass for the long term is to outcompete that grass with shade. And trees and shrubs naturally provide that shade. So this is during the project. Each one of those little blue or white tubes houses a baby tree or shrub that we've planted. In this picture, you can also see we've added some large woody debris, which helps stabilize the banks. And that creates less erosion and little places for fish to hide from predators, and areas where the creek, the energy of the flow of the creek changes so that we start to see pools and riffles instead of one long, what we would call a glide in geologic terms. So skipping to the next picture, you can see what this habitat restoration starts to look at like when we add the element of time. After 4 growing seasons, we see that the trees and shrubs that have been planted are gaining in height, and we're starting to see some shade in the creek. You can see bits of grass down here near the channel, but by the time the trees really reach the closure state and really shade out that channel, that grass has really started to diminish. I've gone back and forth over the years of adding in another picture. I don't have it in this one, but if I did, you'd see a complete canopy closure. You can't see the tree that is shown by the arrow because this section is completely covered. And the best thing, I think, from my perspective, is when I go out to this stream now, I always see juvenile fish. And in the beginning, that wasn't the case. So this is one of many, many, many examples of how riparian restoration is slowly but surely making a difference in watersheds throughout Whatcom County. So education is the next area I want to focus on. NC runs a Students for Salmon program and has been doing so since 1990. I have to say that in the year 2000, we stopped running our program in the schools and taking students out on field trips in March, and we have not yet come back in our normal capacity. But I felt that sharing this important program was too important to take out and tell you what we've been doing the last year. Instead, I want to focus on the big picture, because this program is a core part of our existence. It's a core part of our mission. And while we've made significant adaptations in the last year, this program will continue once we are able to meet with the students and the teachers in person again. So I want to share a little bit about how this program kind of normally works and the adaptations that we've made this year. The Students for Salmon program is a program that we started in 1999, and we have been running this with 4th grade students continuously since then. Each year, we offer this free of charge to all 4th grade students throughout Whatcom County, including private schools and the Lummi Nation Tribal School. The goal is to get students to learn about their local watershed, and we provide an in-class presentation We give the teachers a curriculum that has been aligned to meet the latest state standards, whatever they might be. And then my favorite part of it is that we take students out in the field to a watershed near their school to learn about salmon habitat. They get an opportunity to be a scientist for the day and to learn about the riparian area, about the macroinvertebrates in the creek. For those of you that fish, you'll know those as the flies that you tie for fly fishing. And students also get a chance to test the water quality and determine ultimately if that habitat is healthy enough to support salmon. And mostly what the students learn is that the habitat is okay, but it could be better. And then they get the opportunity to do some kind of restoration project. The amazing thing about this is it gives students an opportunity to be involved, to do some stewardship activity, and really to invest in the health of the watershed that's near their school. And that is always a transformative experience for them. At the end of this curriculum, they take pledges to talk about what they want to do as they move forward in their life. And those pledges are always really inspiring. Each year, again, we offer this free of charge. And this year, the adaptations that we've been making have been creative, to say the least. But what we've been doing is working with our AmeriCorps members and our educators and teachers to put as much of that material as we can online so that students who are at home can be doing these things with their families. And we've heard over and over and over again how amazing it's been for them to be able to take the content that we provided in person in the past and have that handed to them so they can go on these same field trips with their families and with their teachers' guidance. Of course, I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you might have about that, but the main thing I want to leave you with is we've taken all of the curriculum that we've worked for years to design and revise and pivoted to put that online so that the teachers and families can still have access to this. And I think doing our best to meet our community where we're at. And we're looking forward to getting together again when we can. Another program that is a key component of our work is the Future Leaders of Whatcom Waters. This is an internship program, and generally we work with about 50 full-time interns each year. And internships can vary between training interns to act as naturalists with our River Stewards program, to lead work parties with other salmon recovery partners, to teach volunteers how to plant trees. And also many of our interns lead the field trips for the Students for Salmon program. Our internship program has been greatly constrained this past year, and we're primarily waiting until it's safe to rejoin with the interns to retool. But one exciting thing that is coming out of this year is one of our board members has heard a priority of increasing internship opportunities for marginalized students. And we are working to retool our internship program to try to have stronger partnership with Northwest Indian College and Whatcom Community College and Bellingham Technical College, in addition, I should say, to our long-term partnership with Western Washington University. Another program that has been a focus of NC's outreach efforts since 2005 is the Nooksack River Stewards program. I suspect that many of you have traveled to Glacier and up around the ski area and up the Mount Baker Highway at all times in the year. And those of you that are hikers or enjoy the mountains or camping along the river might have noticed that the Nooksack River draws many, many, many visitors on a normal summer season. And what employees of the Forest Service have been noticing year over year is that many of those visitors are doing some damage while they're there. And perhaps the saying of loving the place to death has come up repeatedly. So we worked in partnership with the Forest Service in 2005 to start the Nooksack River Stewards program as a way to educate visitors of how to be good stewards of the watershed while they are here and visiting the Nooksack. And that means getting our interns who are river stewards out to educate visitors about salmon habitat, what fish are in the river when, why pulling sticks out of the river or creating little rock dammed areas can actually harm the fish there. And mostly to share with visitors what's happening beneath the surface of the water and looking at the macroinvertebrates and learning about the fish while they're there. And then finally, there's the opportunity to take action and do something to help make the world a better place and improve habitat. In the normal times, our Stream Stewards program includes community work parties. I know that many of you have joined our community work parties in the past, and I really hope that in large numbers, we can do that again in the future. What we're doing right now is hosting micro work parties instead of macro work parties. In the before time, it wasn't uncommon for our work party attendance to exceed 100. In some cases, even having over 500 community members come on one day to work side by side to plant trees. And while we can't join in numbers like that now, we have retooled our work party program to host a series of very small but very mighty work parties. And these micro work parties are held on Saturdays and even weekdays year round now. And we're inviting you in very, very small groups to come and join our safety conscious work party leaders in very, very small groups to spread out, work at local creek sites, and plant trees to help restore habitat. I heard Rich talk earlier about the focus of Martin Luther King Day next week. And I want you to know that next Monday on Martin Luther King Day, we're hosting a series of micro work parties along Squalicum Creek, right in the heart of Bellingham. I'll share our website link at the end. But this program took a little bit of doing to retool, but we're really excited about the small work parties and mostly the opportunity during this strange and challenging time to be able to invite you and other community members to come outside, to be able to do something to make a difference and to do so in a safe way. As was mentioned in my introduction, a focus of NC's work has been capacity building. I recognize a number of you who have contributed to our capital campaign to help us build and secure a permanent facility. Thank you for that. And it has been amazing to be able to grow into this space, which we moved to in 2013 and finished work on in 2017. We've been able to accomplish so much more for salmon and for local watersheds as a result of this. Finally, I want to leave you with a note that we believe that restoration is habitat forming and that together we can make a difference for salmon, for wildlife, for healthier watersheds. And I really truly believe that healthier watersheds benefit all of us. After all, we need clean air and clean water as well. And with that, I've got space for questions. I've also included a link for our website here where you can go to learn more about the adaptations that we're making for COVID, our plans for afterwards, ways you can support NC, including attending a micro work party or make contributions to support our work. There's a lot more information there about our organization as a whole. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. And I know Dory can help me with those too.
Rachel, let me start out with asking you, how is all this good work funded?
That's a great question. Thank you so much. Yeah, the big picture funding varies on any annual basis. The most of our work is grant funded. Those are competitive government grants, both federal and state dollars. And in any given year, again, I mentioned it can fluctuate a little bit, but I'd say roughly 80% of our budget is grant funded. We also get some really important contributions from local businesses and foundations and private donors.
Thank you.
This is Doug, and I've worked on a number of projects. I really am a big fan of NC, and I don't live too far from you there, from your headquarters down on Van Wyck. But I've been curious, as a result of the various improvements along Squalicum Creek, can you document now how far up the stream you're able to see salmon?
Oh, that's a great question, Doug. Thank you. Yeah, what we do is look at, and I should have mentioned this earlier too. We do a lot of monitoring of restoration projects. And for example, whenever we take out a fish passage barrier and replace that with a bridge and make it so fish can swim through, we'll do spawner surveys or count the number of salmon that are coming back to those areas. As I mentioned in the riparian slide, when we do riparian restoration, we'll go out and we'll look for juvenile fish to see that the habitat improvements that we've made have benefited the fish use and made a change there. So on an individual scale, we're looking at projects to see a difference in fish use, but we aren't able to look at the entire watershed to see how the fish population is changing throughout that broader area. Quite frankly, because we work with landowners who want to do projects on a voluntary basis. We don't have access to private properties without an invitation. So we're not able to look at that big picture watershed. What we can do is see that when we remove a fish passage barrier, we see salmon use upstream of that.
I've been trying to determine if salmon have gone past Dewey Road and that area in your backyard now. On occasion,
Yes.
when I'm riding my bike, I think I can smell a spawning salmon carcass.
Abs-
But I'm just curious how far up it's been that you've been able to document.
And isn't that that's a bittersweet situation? Yes, it's great that the fish are there, but we don't always appreciate the olfactory stimulation. So yes, we do see fish upstream of the NC headquarters, which are sort of the Bakerview, Dewey Valley corner there, just downstream of Van Wyck. We have documented fish use upstream of the Noon Road, and I've even seen salmon up to the culvert at Mount Baker Highway. Personally, I have not seen salmon upstream of the Mount Baker Highway, but if we keep doing these projects, that could change in the future.
It's so encouraging because and before this, the Sunset Pond project, I think it was pretty much a moot point. They didn't get beyond Bug Lake.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Am I on?
Hi.
Hi. I particularly enjoyed your before and after pictures. They made it so clear that the work you are doing works. And I just want to congratulate all of you.
Thank you so much. It's kind of you.
Hey, this is Jack Westford. My wife and I have been totally behind your project for years, and you may or may not know that. One of your original homes was downtown at the Fuster Monument Building downstairs, where we donated it, I don't know, a couple, 3 years. And we got along with your organization very, very good.
I remember meeting you, Jack. It's so nice to see you today.
People may not know that not only does NC grow fish, but they also grow people. My little brother worked at NC for a couple of years, and it did him a world of good. He is now an engineering student at Whatcom Community College. So,
Thank you so much, Dick. And it's such a pleasure to see you here today. Yeah, I have been so impressed. I suspect that many of you know this already about Dick, but he has been an amazing big brother to his little brother. And his little brother worked at NC for, I think, 3 or 4 summers. And we really had the opportunity to help mentor him and help give him some job skills. And really, it was such a privilege to get to help mentor him and watch him grow in his life. And I have such high hopes for him. But I think a lot of that is because of the role modeling and the inspiration and the mentoring that Dick provided him. Well, thank you all so much for your time. I know that gathering in Zoom isn't nearly as perhaps as fun and as rewarding as the last time I came and spoke to your group, and I hope the next time. And I just want to appreciate all of you for the important and good work that you do in this community, and hope that we are able to work towards a solution and get to see each other in the year ahead. Take care.
Rachel and Dory, a big hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you.
Very good. Excellent program. Okay, before I do my sort of weekly COVID report, I just want to thank all the people that made this meeting today possible for you. You were greeted by Dominique and Sandy and I. Bruce Clausen's the Tatler reporter, Tom Grinstead, the Tatler editor, Rich Bowers did our Minister of Fun. Please remember to send in your $5 to Sandy's link when she sends it up. Rick and Paul worked together to do the invocation, and some of the photos in that were just amazing, I thought. Amazing photos. Our program was brought to you by Paul Gray with Rachel and Dory, as you heard. Want to also thank Jennifer for doing her announcements and for all the work that's gone into the Higby project, which is closing on completion. So I encourage everybody to participate. Tonight's game, the National Championship College game, will determine our football pool winners. For those of you that are participating in that, you might have one extra reason to watch. Congratulations to Rory with our small service fund grant, and to anybody else who I missed that helped with today's meeting. Thank you to all of you. We had at one point in time, I saw 54 participants. We might have gone a little higher than that, but solid turnout. Reminder to everyone that next week we do not have a meeting. So I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks. And for those of you that need to take off, and then I'll just do a real brief sort of COVID update as I do each time.